Things have been difficult lately. Hi, it's me, Rebecca. You can feel it in the streets. You saw it in the streets, the tension, the worry, the uncertainty, but there's still people trying to help, people who see the cracks forming and offer something stronger to stand on. And that's how I feel about, well, Gamer's Dreamland, a place that offers clarity, ascension, and simplicity, order in the chaos. They're dependable, efficient, and well stocked. They carry the pieces you need to finish your deck, whether you're refining a strategy or chasing something you thought you'd never find again. And I know it sounds strange, but when someone steps in with answers and with structure, it matters. That's why I'm grateful they're supporting the podcast. They believe in what's being built here, the stories, the community, the connection. And they've made it easy to support your deck and the show. Just use the link in the show notes when you shop at gamersdreamland.com and you automatically get 10% off your order. No promo, no catch, just help exactly where it's needed. I know not everyone trusts so easily, but sometimes when the right person offers you something, you take the hand that's reaching out. Gamers Dreamland, for what you need, for what comes next, your online LGS. Chapter 10. Yawgmoth was healing the city. That thought filled everyone's mind. No one had known just how ill the city was, how languishing in need of Yawgmoth's cures, until now. The early symptoms of phthisis had been posted for months, and even children who could not read could recite the list by heart. Citizens of Halcyon, an invader is among us. A deadly contagion caused by chronic exposure to Power Stone matrices. This disease can be spread person to person. Early detection remains our best defense. A case identified and treated early can prevent 100 more cases. Anyone noting any of the following symptoms in him or herself, family members, friends, or neighbors, is asked to report the findings to Health Counselor Yawgmoth. Fatigue, irritability, excitability, lassitude, forgetfulness, confusion, paranoia, itchiness, blotches, rash, pallor, swelling, numbness, lesions, stiff joints, dizziness, nausea, diarrhea, constipation, changes in eating or sleeping habits, headaches, neck aches, or backaches. The Council is declaring war on this disease and calls all hell sites to aid in fighting that war. Health Counselor Yawgmoth will personally visit every reported person, providing a diagnosis, giving instructions to prevent the spread of the disease, and where needed, administering treatments. It is the duty of all hell sites to cooperate and aid in any way possible. One elder had quipped that Yawgmoth had listed the symptoms of being human. Added another, Yawgmoth claimed to cure all mortal illness. That's what he's listed. The posting was approved anyway. Yawgmoth was granted the right to post this and whatever other public announcements he deemed appropriate. His response to his critics was merely to strengthen the language used, changing "are asked to report" to "must report." To the end of the document, he added a few other sentences. Citizens are advised to watch for loved ones or neighbors who withdraw from contact, wear concealing clothing, act secretively, or oppose early detection efforts. Such action bespeaks a person with much to hide and may be the clearest symptom of infection. Such individuals must be reported. Opposition to Yawgmoth's programs fell to whispers. Not only dissenters find themselves the object of unwanted scrutiny, but they also discovered their views were unwelcome among most listeners. The masses loved Yawgmoth. As long as the masses did, the elected elders of the council did. Glacian and his artificer cronies, long the darlings of the elite, suddenly found themselves without political support. Talk of banishment ceased. Who would exile the new genius of Halcyon? The artificers could only bide their time and wait for fickle public opinion to tire of Yawgmoth. Meanwhile, reports flooded into the health counselor. In the first week alone, there had been 150 cases. Yawgmoth personally called at the home of every patient. He brought with him Zod and a few other healers. They had ceased to be mere observers. Now each was skilled in the creation and administration of the serum. Yawgmoth was reshaping them into healers after his own image, whose hands were skillful with both scalpel and sword. It was fortunate. Some patients were less than willing. Most of those checked were cleared of contamination. A number of others were diagnosed in the early stages of phthisis. Provided treatment, they were charged to avoid physical contact with others, to bathe in salts to avoid infecting the baths, and to report every 2 weeks for further treatments. A final few displayed obvious lesions and tissue degeneration. These Yawgmoth strictly quarantined in their homes or occasionally in a special infirmary in the caves below the city. The program left most patients thankful for Yawgmoth's attention and grateful for his findings. It cast other in Yawgmoth's debt, relying on him not only for injections but also for permission to stay in the world above. As to those sent to the cave infirmaries, only they and their families were unhappy. The rest of the neighborhood, the city, the empire breathed a collective sigh of relief. Reports flooded in. Yawgmoth and his army of healers flooded out. The work kept them busy, day and night. He spent 8 hours a day ministering to citizens, 3 more to the damned, and 3 more to research for a final cure. Yawgmoth allowed his 34 followers to treat patients he had already interviewed, but he himself wanted to conduct each initial assessment, a diagnosis. I want to talk to everyone, shake hands, see homes, learn who they are and what they do, not just whether they're living or dying. It was an ambiguous statement. Yawgmoth's supporters said it showed his deep compassion. His opponents whispered that it showed Yawgmoth had different diagnoses for friends than foes. They hinted he was sifting the populace, casting away anyone who might resist his rise to power, and keeping only those he could mesmerize into supporting it. They hinted and whispered, but dared do no more lest they find themselves interviewed by the iron-eyed man. It was on the way to one such interview that Rebecca caught up to the health counselor. Matching Yawgmoth stride for stride, she said, "Have you a moment?" "Not for months," Yawgmoth replied grimly. "My husband isn't improving. Everyone else is responding to the serum, but Glacian still languishes." "It's a definite conundrum," Yawgmoth answered easily. He checked the numbers carved into a doorpost, consulted a list, and nodded to the healers. "This is the spot." Yawgmoth knocked on the door, a ragged wooden thing. Rebecca pressed. "Why does everyone but my husband respond to the treatment?" Yawgmoth lifted an eyebrow. "Already he receives thrice the dose of any other patient. 4 times the dose might be lethal. He does show signs of improvement during the first hour after each injection, but then quickly lapses. Perhaps his long, intense exposure completely destroyed his resistance." "There have been plenty of untouchables with worse degeneration. They're all responding. Why is my husband different?" "He has always been different," Yawgmoth replied. "Even before the phthisis, even before he was your husband." "What is that supposed to—" The door swung inward. A man stood beyond, old and nervous. Thin gray hair prickled out across his balding head. He blinked suspiciously out into the bright street and drew a ragged row up around himself. "What is it?" Yawgmoth smiled. It was a look that emanated confidence. "I'm Health Counselor Yawgmoth." He glanced down at the list, letting his name sink in. "I have received a report about a certain Desra said to be infected." The man pulled the door up behind him and made a quieting gesture. "Look, I'm her husband. I'm the one who made that report. She was feeling tired and dizzy. Those were on the list, but she's feeling better now, and we've come," Yawgmoth interrupted, gesturing at the group about him. "I have come. The examination will take only a few moments." Narrow fingers quivered fearfully. She doesn't even know. She has no idea there even is. She doesn't know you're coming." "No one does," Yawgmoth said. He stepped forward. Without touching the man, he impelled him back through the door and up the stairs beyond. Please, this isn't what I wanted," he said as he stumbled backwards up the stairs. Yawgmoth climbed. Rebecca followed. She looked about. The wooden stairs must have been a century old, the plaster falling from above. Water stains marked the walls. She hadn't realized such shabby spaces existed in Halcyon. Too much time spent in the Crystal Temple. Zog came behind her. 4 other healers brought up the rear. Yawgmoth pressed. How many Power Stone devices do you possess? None at all. We don't even have a sedan chair, the man yammered. You think we would live here if we could afford Power Stone devices? Does she have any Power Stone jewelry? Yawgmoth pursued. Well, yes, actually, a few things, just a few rings, torques, bracelets. She loves all those things, but she's fine. She's one of those immune ones. I heard about that. Some people don't get sick. That's Desra. The narrow old man had reached the top of the stairs. He staggered into the upper apartments. Yawgmoth, Rebecca, and the others followed. Beyond lay a tiny room, poorly appointed. Against one wall, a rag mat lay, soiled linens bunched across it. More linens hung across the windows, shadows of broken glass cast across them. There were no implements for preparing food. Crumbs of bread and dried hunks of meat lay here and there across the floor. There was not a stick of furniture in the room. The stench of mildew and rot filled the air. The only extravagance was a large round mirror leaning against one stained wall. Beneath it lay a cloth of red velvet. It, in turn, held an assortment of gleaming jewelry. There was one other extravagance. Desra. She could have been no more than 20. She leaned beside her glittering jewels as though part of the collection. They cast stars of light across her young, perfect skin. The torque about her neck gleamed with 4 power stones, the same indigo color of her eyes. As healers poured into the room, Desra pulled a silken robe up across her naked figure in feigned modesty. She stared into their eyes, challenge and invitation both. Her attention settled at last on Yawgmoth, and there lingered with obvious interest. Excuse my appearance, Desra said. My husband said he'd get rid of whoever was at the door. He tried, Yawgmoth said, approaching her and kneeling down. I'm not very easy to get rid of. Healers set down packs of implements. Yawgmoth continued. We've come because of reports that you've had symptoms of phthisis. Desra smiled daggers at her husband. And I know who reported me. Karan's always trying to get rid of me, thinks I'm too expensive. But then he can't bring himself to do it and buys me something else to make up for it. This episode will cost him dearly. Yawgmoth nodded impassively. He said you were feeling tired and dizzy recently. Is it true? With a hissing sigh, Desra idly slipped rings onto her fingers. You would feel tired and dizzy if you spent all day cooped up in this room waiting for Karan to come home. He doesn't let me go out alone, only when I can adorn his arm. I'm just another piece of jewelry to him, you see. He's afraid if I go out on my own, a man like you might snatch me up. Have you had any other symptoms? Swelling, lesions, redness? Something flittered within her sultry gaze, something like fear. See for yourself. Desra drew the robe back from her figure and lay there as all eyes in the room passed over her silken skin. She rolled to one side, allowing a full view. I see no sign of tissue corruption, Zod stuttered, pretending to mark a checklist he held in his hand. All right, cover up, Rebecca said. We've seen enough. You've seen what I don't have and what I do, she answered, slowly pulling the robe up again. Karan strode through the group and covered his wife with a ragged sheet. All right, you've seen, now go. Wait, Yawgmoth said. A few more questions. Have you ever been in contact with anyone who has the phthisis, perhaps during the riots? No. That was one time I was glad to be cooped up, she said. Monsters. They attack us and we heal them? I've seen some of those albino skeletons walking about in the city now. I can't believe you're allowing those monsters among the rest of us. One of my aides today is from the caves, Yawgmoth said, gesturing toward a pale-faced woman who had carried the serum pack into the room. None of those I have allowed into the city have even a trace of phthisis. Desra fixed the pallid woman with a vicious smile. Sorry, but I think the damned should stay damned. Halcyon's got enough ugly people in it already. Grinning ruefully, Karan said, See, she's got lots wrong with her, but not this disease you're looking for. That torque around your neck looks familiar, Rebecca said, eyes narrowing. May I see it? Are you healers or jewel thieves? The husband asked. He laughed nervously. Lean in, girlie, Desra said, puffing out her chest. If you want another eyeful. Give it to me, Rebecca responded flatly, extending her hand. Yawgmoth intercepted her hand and drew it back. This interview is over. No, she said firmly. I recognize that torque because it's derived from a design by my husband. He created Power Stone matrices that cast dynamic illusions, field effects that respond to changing environmental stimuli. Which means? She's not what she appears. Rebecca pulled free of Yawgmoth's grip. She lunged past Karan, grabbed the torque, and pulled it from the woman's neck. Desra clawed her arm and shrieked. The sheet fell back. Without her torque, Desra looked different. She was at least 70 years old and morbidly obese. Folds of fat hung above joints nearly fused with arthritis. Worst of all, though, were the lesions. They ran together in great black sores, oozing and tattered. Skin hung in shreds from 1,000 spots. Even as she struggled to rise to recapture the torque, more wounds opened. From that infected figure came a stench that had been almost completely covered by the torque's illusions. Yawgmoth dragged Rebecca back from the horrid figure. He knocked the torque from her hands. The woman's clawing fingers had shredded Rebecca's forearms. Spirits! Now! Yawgmoth yelled. Zod snatched up a bottle, pulled the cork, and ladled it across the wounds. Rebecca nearly collapsed from the searing pain. She slumped against Yawgmoth, burying her screaming face in his side. Neutralize! Yawgmoth ordered. The young untouchable flung a sedative dart across the room, struck the woman, who groped among her jewels for more illusion magic. The dart injected a powerful sedative into her. She slumped across her Power Stone collection, rolled against the mirror, shattered it, and was pelted by descending shards of glass. Desra! Oh, Desra! Karan wept, falling to his knees and plucking the bits of mirror from her. What have you done? What have you done to her? Pull him off. Administer 3 doses of serum, clear away the glass, stabilize her, but take every precaution, Yawgmoth ordered. Desra! Desra! Yanking a clean sheet from his pack, Zod threw it over the man's head and hauled him back from his wife. He held the man's arms at his side and withdrew toward the wall. The other healers converged on the trembling woman. What have you done to her? Karan cried. You did it to her, Yawgmoth growled. You who wanted a showpiece instead of a wife. You who brought her gems that ravaged her. Administer the test. The young untouchable had just finished injecting Desra and strode purposefully toward Karan. She produced a knife from her belt and cut the sheet over the man's head. She pulled it back far enough to expose the right half of his face. Then, drawing up a needle bladder, she stuck the needle into his temple and squeezed slowly. When Karan began to scream, she stuffed a bunch of the sheet into his mouth. It's only a test serum, Yawgmoth explained. If you carry the thysis, your temple will turn black. If it remains its normal shade, you're healthy. No sign of change, the untouchable said, pulling the needle away and rubbing the man's temple. Test is negative. Congratulations, Yawgmoth said raggedly. You must be immune. We'll have to take your wife to the cave quarantine. She's a hazard to the health of the whole city. Karan's eyes were mad in his head. I'll go with her. I don't care. I'll go with her. She won't have her jewels. She won't have her beauty, Yawgmoth said. I don't care. If they infected her, if I infected her, I'll not abandon her. Let him go, Yawgmoth ordered. Let him gather whatever he will carry down into the caves. Zod, go fetch a team of bearers. She won't be able to walk. That's why she stayed cooped up. Zod released the man, dropped to his knees, still wrapped in the sheet. Karan crumpled over. If I can't take the jewels, what will happen to them? Will they be here when we come back? No. The dwelling must be sterilized. Nothing more. The state will hold any items of value, such as stones, for your eventual return. In your absence, this room is divided to both elevated in the caves, starting from new lives. What? You can't simply take away one man's home and grant it to another? I can. I do. You have no need for it. You owe the city recompense for placing so many lives in jeopardy. Now, be quick. Bears will be here soon. You descend to them. Now, still clinging to him, Beck looked up at the Yawgmoth's stern features. She held out her ragged arm. I hope I'm immune like you think. Yawgmoth wrapped her in a powerful arm. You'll get the best treatment possible, second only to Glacian's own. Blinking, Rebecca drew a ragged breath. Thank you, Yawgmoth, for all you've done. Thank you for not sending Glacian to the caves. I know he's too sick to remain in the city, but if you sent him to the caves, I'd have to go with him. The steely look in Yawgmoth's eyes was decipherable. I know.